Let's settle for the news now. And in our first story, taxi drivers operating here in the capital, Accra, will in the coming months be migrated to a ride-hailing app as part of efforts to digitize the operations of commercial drivers. Now, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who announced this, said the initiative arose out of complaints by taxi drivers that their businesses were being taken over by ride-hailing companies. Addressing a conference of the Pentecost Church of Ghana, Dr. Bawumia said the service would also be extended to trotro and other commercial vehicles by the end of the year. We'll bring you the visuals on that later. But in our next story, government says it hopes to receive the needed assurances from the Paris Club to pave the way for an IMF bailout. The lack of a clear assurance from the Paris Club over Ghana's external debt restructuring program is the stumbling block to Ghana accessing a $3 billion loan from the IMF. Now, speaking to journalists in Parliament, Deputy Finance Minister Dr. John Kuma said he couldn't give deadlines, but the assurances were close.
The Minister for Finance just returned from the Springboard meeting in the US. He took opportunity to meet our bilateral partners and multilateral partners. I can say that we are very, very hopeful that we will secure the Paris Club financing assurances within the shortest possible time. I'm unable to give timelines, but I can assure you discussions are going very, very well, and very, very soon Ghana will hear the good news.
Well, let's take you back now to that initial story about taxi drivers and their complaints and the announcement of the Vice President about their being migrated to a ride-hailing app.
About almost a year ago, taxi drivers came to see me in my office. And one of their major problems that they presented to me and my team, they said, look, our business is collapsing. I said, what is the problem? He said, now we have Uber. And many people are not taking taxis as before. You know, people want to feel safer and for other reasons, so they will rather call Uber and bring us. So Uber is taking our business. So how can you help us? So we sat down with my team and said, okay, how do we help our taxi drivers compete with the Uber drivers so that they can also be like Uber? So we set the team to work. And so the task was to digitize the operations of our regular taxis, just as you have with Uber. I'm happy to say that that work has now been completed. And in the next couple of months, we will be able to place our taxis, at least in Greater Accra to start with, all on an Uber-like platform. And you'll be able to call them just like you call Ubers to your homes and all of that. It's a practical solution to a practical problem. And that is the sort of thing we, as politicians, should be focusing on, dealing with problems of our people. And there's more actually coming, but this is not the forum. I think we are attacking everybody. Trotros will come later on, VIP buses, Ayalolo, Metro Mass. The whole public sector is going to go on, and private sector transport is going to go on what we call a tap-and-go system. When you go to England, they have the Oyster card that you travel with. Ghana is also going to have an Oyster card before the end of this year.
Now, the Chief Justice, His Lordship Justice Enin Yeboah, has called on the judicial service workers in the OT region to deliver justice with integrity. According to him, the value of integrity in effective justice delivery cannot be taken for granted. The Chief Justice made the remarks when he inaugurated a district court in Kijibi.
Distinguished guests, as we shower tons of applause, permit me also to use this occasion to admonish them. That is my staff, judges, judicial officers, officers in the registrar grade, court clerks, and all officers at the courts, including the translator, the bailiff, that they owe this nation a great responsibility Indeed, you have a much higher calling to dispense justice without fear or favor, affection or ill will, which together with righteousness is the foundation of the integrity of God. To me, it is an honor to be entrusted with the administration of justice, however brief, and this is undoubtedly an enormous responsibility. I dare say emphatically that the value of integrity in effective justice delivery cannot be downplayed. It influences and promotes peace, stability, and trust in any society, thus creating an enabling environment for fruitful conduct of business for development. Men and women of integrity are disciplined and honest, and there are people who work hard and are highly productive. There are people who need not to be reminded of their responsibilities. They do not need a boss to keep an eye on them before they do what is right and what is expected of them. Integrity is therefore the most important character trait needed for an efficient and effective service, for building a good reputation for an institution, endangering trust and securing a bright future for our nation.
In our next story, the chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education, Kathleen Addy, is asking for a new narrative where politicians who preach violence are not rewarded. She says this is important as Ghana prepares for another major election. She's been speaking at the launch of the National Constitution Week at Sagnerigu in the northern region.
The National Constitution Week was instituted in 2001 to commemorate the return of Ghana to a democratic rule. To mark this year's celebration, several activities were held, including the education of the masses on their civic responsibilities. Speaking at the launch in Tamale, chairperson of the NCCE, Kathleen Addy, said politicians who create division should not be voted into power.
And so what we have now, which is peace and security, is a thing that we cannot put a price on. And we must strive and do our best to keep the peace and security of this country in all that we do. Other things that are a challenge to our democracy are things like politics of discord and disunity and divisiveness. We are about to go into the political season, and already we are seeing the signs of politicians trying to be divisive, threatening, issuing threats, and all of that. We must have a new political narrative where we, the people, will not reward such politicians by electing them. We have to ensure that the politics serve us. Politics is an engine of the democracy that we are practicing. We cannot do away with it, but it must serve us. We must not be enslaved by the politics of the people.
The Northern Regional Minister, Shani Alhassan Shaibu, commended the NCC's work in deepening the country's democracy.
Now, Chairman, through these 30 years of its constitutional governance, Ghana has made giant strides in consolidating democracy. Prominent among them include periodic elections and peaceful change of government over the period.
The 1998 batch of the Awudome Senior High School has handed over an ultra-modern information communication technology laboratory to its alma mater. Now, the lab, equipped with 80 computers and a virtual teaching and learning facility, is expected to enhance training in ICT and improve the general performance of students. There's more in this report put together by Fred Kwabiasari.
The Awudome Senior High School in the West District of the Volta region has a student population of about 2,000. The school previously relied on privately owned under-resourced ICT Lab for studies. This created a lot of inconveniences which affected teaching and learning due to the inadequacy of computers. Courage Meteku is the Awudome Senior High School headmaster.
So when I came in, we had about only 18 desktop functioning there that couldn't support effective teaching and learning of elective ICT. So the same year, we had quickly have to procure 20 additional desktop for us to have one lab that we used last year to write the exams. But the interest of students to read elective ICT rose very high. So currently we have over 270 students preparing to write 2023 WASI.
In a bid to contribute to the development of their alma mater, the 1998 batch, with support from the 2001 batch, sponsored the establishment of an ultra-modern lab for the school. The president of the 1998 batch of the Old Student Union of Awudome Senior High School, Dr. Gertrude Tovike, said the batch would continue to support the development of the school.
We think that the ICT Lab project is very important because we know the role of ICT in our daily lives. Now, we cannot do anything without a component of ICT. And with the current euphoria about AI and digitalization, data science, we need to equip our students. And we think that one of the ways is to have a computer lab for them so that they can start trying their hands at it and get prepared for the world ahead. Our next move is to support the OSWA National to build the clinic project, which is a big clinic we are building for the school.
This system will also support our virtual learning system because we're expecting that there will come a time our objective test will be written electronically. You only come in, sit down, read the question, answer the question, and then the system will mark it for you. So the computers coming in now will come to support our virtual learning project in the school. So in effect now we have 3 labs that we can use for ICT. But our original plan is must have 5 labs. So we still have 2 labs in deficit.
Fred Kwamia, Joy News, Chito.
Poetry in Ghana has gone through several stages. It has progressed from being scoffed at to becoming a standard in our culture. Writer and poet Akakpo Seiram Ashong Abe revealed that the poetic space in Ghana had seen an immense growth with women playing a larger role. She was speaking at the Goethe Abansoro on Wednesday. There's more in this report by Jacqueline Ansumayabor.
Poetry has mostly evolved into a kind of representation and a means of addressing societal issues through written and spoken words. Ghana's poetry scene is gradually expanding. Writer and poet Akakpo Seiram Ashong Abe asserted that more women have been given larger platforms as the poetry community has developed.
It's grown a lot. For one thing, we have more women. Now we have an entire slam dedicated to female poets. That wasn't the case before. And now we're having events like this where we're on Joy News or on different platforms. I work with City. Poetry is showing up. It wasn't so before. You have events where the first thing somebody thinks about is let's get a poet to open the event. It wasn't like that before. You only think of a musician, at best a cultural troupe. But it's changing. And I also think that young people are now seeing poetry as a viable craft and a viable business opportunity within the creative arts. There's still a lot of work to do.
She also revealed that most Ghanaians mask themselves in order to deal with issues happening in the country.
I think that Ghanaians wake up every morning and wear a mask. We keep it pushing. We tend to hide our feelings a lot, our emotions. We're a little more diplomatic about what we're really thinking when somebody offends us and whatnot. But even just dealing with some of the situations in the country, we wear masks and, we keep the fire burning regardless of what we're going through.
Director of the Writers Project of Ghana, Dr. Martin Egble-Wogbe, indicated that the Goethe Abansoro project is a platform that will help them engage deeply with poets and how best they can contribute to developments.
It's a new kind of concept of engaging with poets that we, as Writers Project of Ghana and the Goethe Institute, have come up with. It's new but not too new, having already gone through about 1 year. But the whole idea actually is to create a platform where we can engage more deeply with poets. So not only do we listen to their poetry, we are able to ask what are the the ideas behind the poems? Are there other things that the poet might want to say beyond the lines that they've presented?
Worth Abansoro is held on the first Wednesday of every second month. Jacqueline Ansumaya Boy's report for Joy News.
What is your greatest fear?
Well, that's it for the news. Up next to the news review, and we're joined by parliamentary aspirant for Hohoi, Vera Yaira Haibo. She is our guest. Do stay.